The PHP team has announced an end of life for PHP 5, so you may want to start upgrading as soon as possible.
Hey John, I heard that there was an end-of-life issue for PHP.
There is, actually. And this is probably something people should kind of pay attention to or take note. PHP is kind of a back-end programming language used in a lot of web environments, and notably WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, all of those content management type systems. So the story here is that PHP has discontinued support for all versions prior to 7.0. So you really want to get up to version 7.2, which is the most recent one. So I think it's important for people to make sure they have some plan to upgrade sometime within the next year or so, because it is end of life. So it's important, not necessarily in the immediate term, but I would say if you're running a web server or web servers that are using these older versions of PHP, you should start to formulate a plan for migrating off of them, or migrating to the most recent version of PHP, because there's not going to be any support going forward. When I say that, PHP is not going to be providing support going forward. The reality is, in a lot of these commercial Linux environments, like Red Hat and CentOS and some of these ones, a lot of those have packages for PHP, and they'll probably still be putting security releases in, not new features, but if there's a security patch, they'll probably roll out versions to their people that they support. But even that, I would say you probably want to make sure that you've got some migration plan to get your environments up to PHP 7.2, because that's not going to last forever either.
Is it a difficult migration from even, let's say, 5.0 to 7.2?
So it can be, depending on how much of your own custom code you've written. If you're really running kind of off-the-shelf commercial code that runs on top of PHP, like a WordPress or Joomla or Drupal or any of these other ones, it's probably less difficult to migrate, but you still might have some oddball plugins. A lot of these content management systems have third-party plugins and modules that you can add on. They might not be as well maintained as the core base of these content management systems that you use. So you might have to go find if there's a new version, or that might put a hiccup in your plan if you're really dependent on some of these third-party plugins for the different types of content management systems out there.
Sure. I think there was just recently a couple of vulnerabilities in Drupal as well, right? So if you're running Drupal and this older version of PHP, having to patch and update both of them can be really difficult.
Yeah, but it probably gives you even more reason to.
Yeah, exactly.
So with Drupal, there have been 2 Drupal vulnerabilities just this year, I believe, and that's like, if you haven't patched for that, you really should have by now.
Right.
Because they facilitate remote code execution type of vulnerabilities in themselves. So it's probably good to get everything updated anyway. So this might give you yet another reason to do it if you haven't already.
Now, I got a quick question for you, John. With the Drupal issues that we had this year, now we're end-of-lifing PHP. Do you see that there's any issues with having to do upgrades on both, or is it a concern that these people that use PHP at those levels need to get it up to 7.2 right away? Which one should go first, do you think? Drupal or Joomla, WordPress, or the PHP end of life?
I would say, if it was me, that I would check with whatever my content management system provider is, or any other application that might be reliant on PHP, see if they're 7.2 compatible, and then find out what their upgrade plan is. Like, what would they recommend as a path to get yourself up to date? Because I would think that they probably have some guidance around that to make sure that you're going to have a smooth migration plan.
Sure. Yeah, so it's just a matter of time before a new vulnerability pops up on this older version of PHP and begins to be exploited. So obviously you want to get that patch or updated as soon as possible.